What's up, everyone? Tonight we're doing a pre-record. We have Talon with Dragon Ball Pythons, and we want to start off by giving a quick shout out to US Ark. They're the ones fighting to protect our rights to keep and breed reptiles. If you're in the hobby, you benefit from their work, go check them out at usark.org and consider showing your support. How's your night going so far, Talon?
It's going great. Yeah, I had a day off today, so just was able to work with the animals and just shipped a skink off.
Well, that's great news. Starting off, congrats. It seems like you had a great year, 11 out of 11 I saw.
Yeah, I felt... Sorry, go ahead.
What was your breeding approach? Was it any different, or?
Yeah, so I did breed a little differently. I wasn't expecting for them all to go, which is why I bred so many. I had a lot more babies than expected. I was trying to think back. I brumated a little bit longer this year. It was probably 2.5 months, maybe close to 3 months. And then I woke up the males about a week to 2 weeks earlier, probably closer to like a week and a half earlier than the females. And I'm not sure if it seemed to help with the males, give them a little more time to get ready. And then, some of them took a little while to start locking, but they all eventually locked. And in terms of brumation temperature, my house didn't really get below like 72, 73 the whole year. I turned off the lights and everything, so they really didn't get too cool, cold enough to brumate, but nothing too extreme. Although in terms of the heating sources, I thought last year it seemed like I had better luck with the females that had basking spots in UVB versus the ones in a rack system.
Yeah.
And so I switched most of my females to that, just because it'll be better for them anyway. But
yeah,
also just I feel like the basking system kind of helps warm them up more properly. But one thing I noticed this year is the ones with UVB and basking, they all did well. But even the ones in tubs, if they had a higher temperature, like most of them were around 105 degree hot spot, some of them 110, all those females did really well and had good litters. The couple females that had lower hot spots, like 95, and that was only because I had like radiant heat panels, and I couldn't go up much higher than that without increasing the temp too much on the cold side. Yeah. Those females seem to only have like 1, 2, 3 babies. And
did they seem smaller?
Some of them, yeah. I would say for the most part, yeah. Smaller and smaller litters. But yeah, and that's the only thing I can think of. I attribute that just to the lower basking temp potentially. Maybe.
No. Now, from the time you warmed up the males to the time you warmed up the females, how long do you think it was between the time the females were ready?
Let's see. So if I warmed up the males a week before, and then I mostly waited for the males to shed, which was like 2 to 3 weeks after they woke up. So the females would have been awake for 1 to 2 weeks when I started, but not all of them locked right away. Some of them, it took a couple of tries. So it may have been closer to, 2 to 3 weeks after they woke up until they started locking. But the majority of them, I would say within 1 to 2 weeks of the females locking, and 2 to 3 weeks of the males, 1 to 2 weeks from when the females woke up, and 2 to 3 weeks from when the males woke up. I feel like is when we got the best locks.
Did everyone have multiple locks?
Yeah, I did at least 3 on everyone. Some of them I did up to 5.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed for mine this year. All the ones I tried with one either had nothing or slugged out.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's that, or I was just way off. Time's always a possibility.
Did the females just not want to lock anymore after the first one?
Some were that. There was two or three that I just tried one lock to see. It was being later on, there probably would have been hit or miss though if they took another one anyway.
Yeah.
It was more of like a end of breeding season. Let's do two more to see and hope for the best.
Okay. Yeah, I had some too that wouldn't lock with certain males, or the males wouldn't lock for whatever reason. So I had to try different ones, and that was part of the reason why some of them ended up locking later on. Either they didn't like the male or the male didn't want to breed that year. I did have two males though that were yearling males, and I didn't brumate them at all. I mean, it got slightly cooler and they kind of slowed down a little bit, but I kept their hot spots up, and they ended up breeding really well. So one of them bred one girl and one of them bred two females, and they all had good litters without having to actually do a true brumation, which was surprising.
Sometimes it doesn't take a lot, it seems, on certain ones. Like, I've had ones in a completely different room on heat. You know, there's the outside temperature definitely being cooler. You know, even you guys get some probably decent nighttime drops when it's, you know, in the winter in Arizona. Yeah. That I think they can feel it to an extent. You know, I don't know how much they can tell, but it seems like it to me. You didn't do any like multiple males to a female, did you?
No, at least not. I mean, I tried multiple males to a female, but I would only get a lock from one male, and then I just kept going with that same male.
Well, I know not like some people just do primarily one male to, you know, track lineage, but like Dave mentioned on other ones that back in the day they do multiple males, especially when it was more like classic litters than, you know, you know, classic to classic. Either way, they're going to be classics.
That makes sense, just to make sure, you know, you get some viable sperm. If one male's doesn't have as much viable sperm, you can put the other male on and better chance of getting babies.
You probably have not tested any of that out of curiosity, have you?
I haven't, no.
Okay. I kind of figured not, but, you know, some people dabble a little further. I've contemplated to see. I don't know if I'd be able to tell enough on a cheap microscope, like amount of sperm per sample, if it would matter even.
Yeah, I guess that's something I could do down the road, or maybe next season. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, if I ever see one cheap, I might pick it up maybe on Amazon Market or Facebook Marketplace for $20 for a nice one or something. See what happens.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of good deals on Facebook Marketplace.
Now, on the ones you produced, or, you know, even the ones you've acquired, have you noticed any like the back stripes connecting, or we'll call them random spots popping up more than like little flecks?
I have some that were at the back stripes connecting, but I think I sent you pictures of one of them. But I don't have any. You said you have some with kind of like the W's or M's, right?
Yep.
Banding. Yeah, I don't quite have that. I do have some with kind of like a funkier pattern, but not quite like an M or a W. Okay. I need to go through them some more. They're all shedding right now, or most of them are. I need to go through them some more and send you some pics and see.
Well, and then also, I should pull up the one I had of yours set of some of the ones you produced. It's like the spots, I would call them like the size of the scale as an adult, but they're not in line with what you would think of the scale. Like not like a pied spot, maybe more of a
Yeah.
paradox.
Oh, okay. So you have some of that popping up in yours?
Yeah. Oop, that's not the right one.
That is my Instagram, though.
Yeah, that's the show. So well, I guess I could have talked on that since I had that up. So the show you have coming up in September, are you just gonna do primarily like acrylic displays, deli cups, or
I have a plexiglass display that I got off of where was it? It was off of one of the Facebook reptile groups. I got the rack here in the back, and then an acrylic display and a bunch of other stuff. Some PVC enclosures for the blue tongues. And so I'll probably use that. I have two, like one's a 5-hole and one's a 4-hole. I have those, and then I'll probably do deli cups. I mean, I know it's not the nicest, but it's my first show too, so I kind of want to see how I do first before investing in the nicer displays.
do those ones have a heat cable on them at all? Are you gonna bring any?
They don't. I probably won't because it'll be warm enough
Okay.
in in Glendale, so I don't think that they would need heat. And I'm only doing it. I'm not going to be there that Sunday. I'll just be there this Saturday. So.
Were you only able to do the one day? Only had tables for the one day? It just worked out that way?
Yeah, I just only able to do the one day.
Okay.
Have you done shows?
I've done a couple of the smaller local ones.
Uh-huh.
Yet to do any of the bigger ones.
What do you like as far as displays?
So we did more like containers, deli cup with like overhead lighting and stuff.
Okay.
Talking with Dave on it, sometime probably before next year, getting some type. I don't know if I do like a 3 or a 4 wide. That way, as they grow, if they stick around a little longer, they'll still fit in the displays.
Yeah.
And I contemplated either just putting heat tape under them because a good amount of the year here gets pretty cold, but then also the one show I was at, depending on where you were at, where the AC was blowing is pretty cold.
Yeah.
So maybe just, keep them rolled up in a container that we bring with just in case. And then if you need to plug them in. And if not, don't. Did yours have overhead lighting on your setup?
No. So that's another thing I got to find. I've gotten a few recommendations for some just like LED overhead lighting, like lamps on Amazon. What do you use?
We just had, some kind of clamp on lamps we made work.
Okay.
They have some really nice, some people will get, they're like jeweler lights, and you get like 10 of them on a strip above your table, but those lights are, I think they almost spent like $1,000 on the lights alone.
Wow.
It makes the animals look nice and they pop, but they do a lot more shows than we do.
Yeah, I guess if you do enough, then it might be worth it. Help you sell a couple more animals per show.
Well, and it's hard, some animals, depending on the container, they definitely don't look as pretty as they are. And, you want to, it does help, it seems like on some stuff, kind of.
Oh, I think you froze.
if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I think you froze up for a little bit, but now I can hear you.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Does it seem like people, like, instead of going more towards a certain line, pick an animal based on how it looks?
As far as the blue tongues,
Either of them,
or
like,
general?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like most of the ones I've sold recently, and a lot of the ones I sold last year too, people just liked how they looked. Like a lot of the ones actually last year that sold well were the ones that have more white speckling on the dorsal. Just there's lots of different lines that have that, but I think a lot of people liked that last year. And actually, I did a pairing of two that I had that had extra white on the dorsal and bred them together. And I got one particularly that has a lot of white. It's almost like, I'll have to send you pictures too. It's almost like two lines of like the white speckling down the back.
I actually saw that one. My friend that helps us out a bit, he really likes that. And like some of the ones he has are more, we'll call them thinner lines. Yeah, I saw that one of yours. It had some really thick lines on it.
Okay, I did send it to you then. Cool. And I guess we'll see how it ages because I feel like most of them get more white specks as they age. So we'll see how it changes with age.
What's your plan so far on holdbacks? Waiting to see on a bit as they age?
Yeah, there's a lot I want to hold back, so I'll have to, I kind of have picked out the ones I'm liking. I'm not gonna be able to hold them all back though, because it would probably be like 20 or more. So I'll just watch them for a bit longer and put them up. The ones that I end up not keeping, put them up for sale later. But I have the orange male I got from you. I bred him to a caramel line female. Not like the blue-eyed caramel. And they had some really pretty low black oranges. So there's 2 or 3 babies from that pairing that I want to keep. And that was one of the ones that has the connecting bands too on the dorsal. And then there's some sunset magmas. And I did a pairing of a pitch black yellow that I got from James Finn last year. Put to some of my sunset females that are kind of yellowy orange. So I think there's going to be some pretty like bumblebee colored ones. I'm hoping for some. They'll get some brighter yellows as they age, and the black will darken with age, hopefully, with the pitch black. So yeah,
well, that'd be it gives you a nice mix of contrast too to work with, different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. What about you? I've seen lots of your orange stuff. They're really, really pretty. How many are you holding back this year?
So at least 8, I think. Okay. There's the 6 from the one female that we're hoping to prove out genetic. So we're keeping those all back. The one that kind of looks like hypomelanistic or however you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one, it's odd. Some of the ones I did went significantly more orange than red. But one of the pairings I did had one red, I think it's a girl. And I'm hoping that mom is going to end up being a het because she's siblings to that one also. Worst case, it's a pretty red skink. I'm not going to argue with that. It's pretty reduced black. And then some of the really vibrant orange I got setting aside to trying to decide which ones to keep and which to let go, as not having a ton wasn't on a rush on to let some of those go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a good and a bad thing. You know, it gives you a little more time and a little more space to watch them grow up. And speaking of like growing up, have you noticed like certain lines color up faster or hold up better as adults, or is it very kind of pretty random?
Let's see. Yeah, I feel like most of my babies from my caramel female last year, they were more yellow, and they kind of got more like an orange, like almost looks like the sunrises, or I guess sunrises or sunsets. She was bred to a light classic sunset. That the dad was a light classic sunset. So not necessarily, she didn't necessarily lose, or they didn't necessarily lose color, but kind of just changed a little bit in color.
Yeah.
Then I have one specific female, a magma sunset that is also from James Fenn, a Fenn magma. Pretty much no matter what I breed to her, she makes really pretty babies, and they all pretty much seem to hold their color. Very very orangish red into adulthood. So
I can't argue with that. The ones I've got from those have all turned out good.
Yeah.
I noticed it seems, and it gets harder. Well, sorry. As you know, some you have so many lines mixed in that it's hard to pick and choose. Like, I have some that do seem to be more variable, and then others that will, like, no matter what, throw more yellow, even if they are red.
Yeah.
And I don't have a good answer why, other than they just do.
Yeah, I did have one yellow from that female this year out of 11, and the rest were kind of orangey red, which kind of surprised me.
Have you noticed, like, any, other than, like, polygenic traits, anything else that might be something else?
Not that I can think of. I do have some that are like, again, I've had multiple offspring from that, the light classic sunset male that he was my first skink I got. I don't know anything about his lineage. I wasn't really paying attention because I wasn't sure if I was going to breed him or anything. And now I'm kicking myself for not getting more lineage from the person I bought it from. It was at a reptile expo. But usually when I breed him, most of the babies will be like more similar to the mom. Like I bred him to my caramel female, and they're more caramely, and some more oranges coming in. But then the last 2 litters that he's had, there's been one that popped up kind of lighter colored, kind of like he was, but also kind of like not necessarily like a white, but like a peachy color.
Yeah.
Hypo-y, peachy. I don't know really what to call it. I've just been calling it peach because it kind of looks peachy, but I don't know. It's nothing like yours. Like I don't think it's polygenic. I mean, I don't think it's genetic. It could just be a polygenic thing. But I bred him. You know, this is the first time I did it. I usually try not to breed siblings to siblings, and daughters to fathers and stuff like that. But I did it once. I bred him to his daughter that had the same color, and we got a good litter from her. And then I'll see how they pop up. They all seem lighter so far, but we'll see. It was one of my last litters, so they still need to shed a couple more times. I'm expecting just a lot of lighter, like light classic babies, but.
Well, and even if it doesn't end up genetic, that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously genetic has a potential higher, but
yeah,
what you mentioned on the like siblings or like doing related at a certain point, to try to see if there are any hidden hets or stuff like that. That's kind of the best way to do it.
Yeah, and from what I could, research, one pairing isn't gonna really make a huge difference, as long as I don't keep breeding them together and, continue the inbreeding, just outcross the babies next time.
Well, and then even some, like you could do, cousins too. Like some of the ones I did or I tried this year were, cousins, trying to see if hopefully that they were hets, and either they weren't, or I didn't have the odds, or they're just pretty light animals or reduced black animals.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing. So say if you had, say that one is genetic, are you going to try to outcross it next year to see?
Yeah, I probably would. I'll wait and see. Yeah, I don't think it's genetic, but yeah, depending on what the babies look like, I guess I'd have to think about it then. I mean, I have multiple babies from that male too, so they would be like, half siblings, stuff like that I could do potentially. In fact, I did do one breeding of half siblings from him too, 2 different moms, same dad, and that she had a really healthy litter. So
Yeah, I think, it seems like the first thing that I've noticed is underbites, but even then on some random unrelated ones, I've had underbites pop up on the skinks as they age.
Oh yeah.
So it seems like some of it is random and some is inbreeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense. I could see that happening randomly. I'm also wondering. I want to get your opinion on this too. I'm wondering, obviously, there's going to be congenital defects no matter what. But I'm also wondering, if potentially, a female that might have a little, like not quite enough calcium in her diet while she's growing her babies, or even like pre-brumation, post-brumation while she's pregnant. I wonder if that could affect like telekinks and stuff like that in babies.
It would, definitely make sense. They'd have a weaker resource, and all, the mom will take some from her too, so she'll have a higher chance of kinking.
Yeah, I have seen that. I haven't happened to any of my females yet, but yeah, where the females, after having babies or while she's pregnant, get a little telekink. She's drawing the calcium from her bones to use up on her babies.
One thing I noticed, and just from talking to people, at least on like the babies, some of them, when they're low on calcium, they'll kind of like seizure when they move. Like kind of like spastic moving, not like a smooth movement.
Interesting. And I have one like that right now I was trying to decide what it was. It seemed like neurological. Out of a litter of 15, it was the only one like that.
That one. So I've had some that were just like that, you said, where it's like 1 out of, 15, where I'm pretty sure it is neurological. I've had some that, like, it could only roll.
Oh, okay.
It didn't end up making it long term. So it probably wouldn't have done well either way. Like, if you put the food right by its mouth, it was able to eat. But other than that, it couldn't really do well. Does it seem like it can survive and do okay on its own?
Yeah, he eats really well. So yeah, he like that's pretty much his only symptom. He's just and he doesn't even bite or anything. He just is very, very neurological is how I would describe it. He's able to right himself. I can put him on his back, he can get right back up, but very spastic. but he eats really well. He's growing really fast too.
I'm assuming yes on this, but just in case, I'm assuming you've probably at least supplemented some of his food with calcium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah, I give him all. I make my mix and add the calcium. I do just 1% by weight. It seemed to be working well for all the babies except for that one, but
well, I wouldn't.
Logical thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that's necessarily anything you did. That's the one that a bird would pick off in the wild or something.
Yeah.
How much variety are you doing? Just mainly a bit of dog food, and I know you grind a bit of stuff and mix in. You do a bit of insects.
Yeah. I try to give them quite a big variety. So, I mean, the adults get more variety than the babies. I try to give the babies a little more protein. But I'll still grind up, chicken liver, chicken hearts, what else? Chicken gizzards for the babies as well. And then usually like baby food or something pureed, or I'll blend up veggies and greens for them. And the adults kind of the same thing. I like to do really like butternut squash and collard greens and other dark leafy greens to mix in their mash with the dog food and then some type of meat. And then I used to have dubia roaches I'd raise, and now I switched to discoid roaches, mostly because I got Morph Market was giving some away. You just pay shipping a few months ago, so I got a bunch from there. Well, it was dubia.com, but it was through Morph Market or Dubia
Roaches. Did you grow them up to breed some of them then, or just feed majority of them?
Yeah, I'm gonna breed some of them. Yeah, they were tiny. They're like the smallest you could get when I first got them. So, but now they're up to good size for feeding adults. So, feed off some. And then some of my blue tongues, the male I got from you especially, he really likes snail. So, before I moved to Tucson. Now I was in Glendale. While I was in Glendale, there was an Asian market that had the frozen mud snails, and so I'd get that and mix it in the food as well. And most of them went crazy over it. And then I haven't found any since I've been down here, so I need to keep looking.
Can you legally breed them in Arizona?
Yeah, certain species. There's like certain species of garden snails. I haven't looked into them too much.
Okay.
I'm sure I could do that.
I'm going to say that might be an option. It's pros and cons to it. Then you got to have a spot for those, and then it's something else you got to take care of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
You keep pretty much everything like at your home. You don't have like a off-site facility or a building.
No. I would like one. That would be nice. Or at least like a large shed out in the back or something. But for now, they're inside.
Do you have enough land for it, or will they allow something where you live?
Not where I am right now. We're renting right now, though. So when we buy, hoping next year, maybe in 2 years, we're hoping to buy, and then either, find a facility you can take everything to, or put something up, or buy something that already has something that would work in terms of a shed.
And this will depend on how much you like living where you're at. Potentially in 2 years, interest rates will be less, so you'll pay a little less, but you might outgrow that and want to move sooner than that, also.
Yeah, so lots of decisions to make. But I do it would be nice to have a facility. There's pros and cons. It'd be nice to have a facility, more room, and just a space just for the animals. But also, I'd have, depending on where it is, I'd have to drive there, and it'd be more of a hassle for sure than having them here. It would depend on how far it is too. But
Well, and that'd be nice if, you can make it work. Either do it, either connected building to your house, or, you guys don't have to worry about snow, even if it's off building 100 feet or, 100 yards from your house. It's a quick walk.
Yeah, it's probably what it would be. Well, depending on how much land we get down the road.
So being you're renting, I'm sure you probably don't have much of this. You're probably not keeping anything outdoors then, right?
No. Yeah, not really. We have our sulcatas out there, little babies, but that's about it.
Um, Hypothetically, if you had your own place, would you plan on any outdoors?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot actually. I've talked to someone who's had skinks outdoors before in Arizona, and he had them. He had them outside during the summer, and then would bring them in the winter. And I think that would be very doable. Especially, I just have to plan everything out right with the shade and everything, but I can have outdoor enclosures similar to like Manny's and Heather's, but bringing them in the winter and just put them in on a rack system and brumate them. So just bring them in for brumation and that's it, and then put them back out.
What's like the lowest it gets there?
Here in Tucson, in Phoenix, certain parts of Phoenix, like where I was before, it rarely will get to freezing. Here in Tucson, it'll get a little below freezing, but it kind of depends. Some winters are harsher than others.
Yeah, so it'd probably just be worth it to just bring them in. I was going to say you could design it with either you wrap it like Heather and them or something for, like a box or something with heat, but then you gotta, at that point, they'd be brumating anyway, not moving. Inside would be probably easiest and safest.
Yeah, I did think about supplementing with heat in the winter. That could be a potential way to go about it too.
I know that people do it in Florida, and sometimes they'll just have to lock them in, but then that's, another step and something else you got to worry about. And
yeah, exactly. But I would like to do something like that, give them more, more room and more natural habitat. I feel like they'd be a lot happier and healthier.
Well, and you guys, you'd probably be able to at least get 9 months, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then put the pairs out before it starts getting too warm. Put the pairs together or trios together. That way it's still kind of cool, so they're not as likely to fight and whatnot.
So I'm especially renting. I'm sure you haven't tried any like indoor pits, we'll call them, or anything like that for pairs or anything.
Not yet, but I do have. In the summer, the garage is way too hot here, but I have a big 3-story tortoise table I made that my tortoises were in before, and it's probably the main area is about 5x2, 5x3, and then there's another section kind of like a burrow that I made that's probably 4x or 3x2 or 3x3. And then it goes up. There's a ramp that goes up to a little horse trough too, which was the basking area. So I think that would make a good indoor pit for a pair or trio of blue tongues. Quite a bit of space overall. I'd have to make some modifications to it, but I thought about doing that for the winter. I would just have to, before it gets too hot in the summer, I'd have to bring them in or find another way to keep them cool in there.
Because it seems like I know when TC was still around, he kind of talked about it. Some people are switching more to small batch breeding. Going bigger enclosures, less.
Yeah, I remember watching some of those videos when he was getting out.
I don't know, and it wouldn't necessarily be the same idea, but I contemplated some of that long term, kind of like how John has in
Yeah, I've thought about
New
that too.
Jersey. Like
I really like his indoor pits.
would need some more room than what we have here, but down the road, just thinking, you know, even maybe 6x3 multi levels, like the 3 levels, like you said. One thing I worried about was loss of, you got loss of vertical space. You got you could do it 2 foot high 4x8, or maybe you could do a 3 foot high 3x6 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So this one would kind of relate to what you do. Like, so with the blue tongues, have you noticed any links between seasonal light shift and increased reproductive activity or fertility?
Um, like in terms of them coming out of brumation and increasing the lighting.
Yeah, like, do you think the light cycling you did played a role in the success you had? I guess be the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it helped. I'm trying to remember exactly what I did. I have it all written down, but um, yeah, I kind of just gradually increased the light. I think I started with just turning on like the UVB, not the heat at first, and then only about half, like probably like 6 hours a day, something like that at first, and turning on the heat, just slowly warming them up. And that's actually something I forgot to mention too. Something I did differently this year is I didn't heat them up nearly as fast. I started them at like maybe 80-degree basking spots, like when I first woke them up. So it started with the UVB, then started like 80-degree basking spots over the course of like a few days, and then slowly increased the temperatures to like during the breeding season for the males. I think I kept their basking temps around 90, 95. Just because I was worried. I didn't want them to. I wanted them to kind of wake up slower, and I wanted them to be somewhat cooler to hopefully help with fertility and sperm count. I think that helped. And then eventually, after they were done breeding, I increased their temps back up to like 105-ish.
Sounds, very well thought out and smart, definitely. And I'd be curious at what temp does cook the sperm, because I know I've had a male that was maybe his basking spot was 120,
Mm-hmm.
and the 3 girls he paired one year, everything slugged out.
Yeah.
So definitely 120 is.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the cutoff is between the two.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I feel like 120 wouldn't be a bad, basking spot if they had enough room to cool down. Probably similar to what they get in the wild.
What was odd, he liked it warmer. Even when it was that warm, he would bask a bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
like it wasn't like when he was a little cooler in a different setup. It wasn't like he did bad or anything.
Uh-huh.
Just I don't know. He was just weird like that. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, so I could see how the sperm could get cooked then if he enjoyed that hot spot, just chilling there all day.
And that could have been part of it too. Him, just staying in it longer than some males would. They'd.
Yeah.
You have all of them like same room, males and females. You don't have them separated at all.
I do right now. Let's see. When I was breeding, because I was still in Glendale when I was breeding.
Okay.
I had most of them all in the same room, but the males were on one side and the females were on the other. And then I had a couple of males in another room as well. The younger males, I wasn't even sure if I was going to breed them. I just tried it and they did. The ones that I didn't brumate. And yeah, they all did well. It was kind of funny. Yeah, so I did all the breeding in Glendale, but only one had babies before we moved. So, and I kind of tried to breed a little later, hoping I could get all the females here. Then they would have babies, so I wouldn't have to haul as many babies. But yeah, she was the only one who had them. And then the day we moved, I brought all the reptiles in and had them in just tubs for traveling. And one of the females had 11 babies in one of those little traveling tubs.
Oh, wow.
Kind of put them all in a corner while I was setting stuff up, and I looked over and there were babies in there. They all did well, but
that's awesome. There's no way to really tell. I'd be curious if that was just when she was gonna, or if just the move was, enough that started the shift to drop them,
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
None of the others went close, like within a couple days after or anything?
There were a few that went a couple days after. And then I had some go way later. There was a couple I didn't even think were pregnant, and they just had like 1 or 2 babies.
Were they the ones that were a little colder you mentioned?
Let's see. One of them was, and then the other ones that had little smaller litters, and that were later. I'm trying to think. Actually, no. Two of them had the lower temperatures that went later, and then there were 2 other ones that had the regular, like they were like 105, 110 basking spots, and still took a while.
Well, and some of that's, the hard part. We don't, at least I've never been good at telling when the female ovulates.
Yeah, me neither.
And even if you catch it, it still might not change your day count that much. I think some females ovulate relatively quick after.
Yeah.
Because at least they go to the point from being receptive to not receptive pretty quick.
Yeah. I also wonder if the temperature plays a role in that. I warm them up not quite as slow as the males. Well, no, I warm them up slowly as well, but their end basking temp, even during breeding season, was still like 105 for most of them anyway. But I still slowly warm them up. And it seemed
I think it at least extends your successful window they will breed.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the males. And on average, does it seem like your males were in the mood for maybe a month, or some a little less, depending on the male?
Yeah, probably around there. Yeah, some maybe a little less. Some took a little longer to get ready too, even after shedding. And then I have some that would probably still that would breed 2 months after probably. They just want to breed all the time.
That is, odd, and it almost gets to the point some will need a shed again for them to completely get out of the mood.
Yeah.
Now, so this one would be kind of both the blue tongues and the ball pythons.
Mm-hmm.
So long-term multi-year project planning, how do you weigh genetic diversity versus visual consistency? That could be, visually like the color or the, gene itself.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, I want to have strong bloodlines for sure and make sure there's, they don't get too inbred. I want them to be healthy. But yeah, in some cases, it might be beneficial, like the one pairing I did with father to daughter, just to kind of either prove something out or see if you can kind of intensify the color or pattern or whatever it is with that breeding. With the ball pythons, I feel like it's a little easier to be more genetically diverse. In some ways, if I have a really expensive gene or rare gene, or if I were to find a new gene, I'd want to, breed the siblings together and father-daughter, mother-son pairings and whatnot to try to prove out the gene or get more of that gene, within limits for sure. But I just, for the most part, with the genes I'm working with in ball pythons, I've been breeding them to they're mostly recessive genes. I've been breeding them to completely different recessive genes and making like double hets and triple hets, and some I'm even trying to go for quad hets down the road, to eventually get the double, triple, quad visual recessives. So I feel like I'm able to get some diversity in that first pairing because breeding to a completely unrelated snake with a completely different morph. But then after that, you have to breed siblings or like half siblings together.
Well, with a lot of that, kind of a good way to put it, you narrow the gene pool initially to prove it out or to hit that, 4 gene, recessive, and then you pair that to something unrelated, or, you pair that 4 gene recessive to a different 3 recessives with some codoms that's, highly unrelated, and it strengthens it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you noticed any bottlenecking at all in ball pythons?
No, I haven't. I also haven't done very many like closely related pairings yet. I've done like mother to son. Like I'm doing one breeding right now because the mom is kind of just weird looking. I was thinking she may have been hurricane or even maybe like het monsoon or something. I was like, I wasn't expecting to be that lucky that she'd be het monsoon, but I tested her and one of her sons for like hurricane, het monsoon, a few other things just to see, and they were both negative for everything. So comparing the son back to the mom to see if it is something different, we'll see. But yeah, I haven't done very many closely related pairings and haven't noticed much bottlenecking. But from what I've heard and like researched, most genes that we start with, most especially recessive genes, we always start by breeding siblings together and whatnot, and they seem to do okay. I think as long as we're not just doing generation after generation, sibling to sibling, then it should be fine.
Well, and the nice thing too with them, they have so many different genes and so many different lines, generations that have brought in, where you got a huge bloodline to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah, that is nice. There's lots of ball pythons.
Does it seem like for them too that people are choosing more genetic, like, and you probably haven't done a ton of expos with them, but like people prefer the banana look or versus, some of the more simple 3 gene combinations and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done any shows yet, actually. This one coming up will be my first. But in terms of like selling on, Facebook and selling on Morph Market and whatnot, definitely new people just getting in, pet people, they just want the looks. Some of them will just go for a banana. A lot of people still just want blue-eyed Lucy's or Pieds. But in terms of like 3 gene combos, I feel like 3 gene like codom or I guess incomplete dominant combos that are pretty and not too expensive, I feel like those sell well also. But in terms of people wanting to invest or getting into breeding, I think the wave of the market is still going for double visuals, maybe with some combos and triple visuals and whatnot. So a lot of people are still going for like double het, triple hets with codoms. Not as much as like a visual, but still, if it fits in their project.
So if someone was wanting to like say start breeding ball pythons, do you think it's worth breeding like a couple pairs of ones that have like a few incomplete dominant mutations in it, like to like I don't
like
know, Orange Dream, Fire to I don't know, pick 3 random other codoms, for example.
I think it could be. It might be a good idea to do a clutch or 2 before you start getting, and breeding super expensive snakes, because, you wouldn't want to mess that up. If you have a $10,000 clutch in your incubator and you make a mistake due to not having the experience, that would be very sad, very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So I feel like starting off with that, I mean, either way, they're animals. We want to treat them the best we can. But I think starting out with, some more simple genes for a clutch or 2 is great. And then, some of those combos will still sell well as pets. I mean, I don't know if I'd recommend just, doing normal pairings to practice.
Yeah.
Because then, you're going to have a hard time finding homes for them. And unfortunately, is, most people, they put the value of the snake. They put a value on the snake. And if it's a $50 snake, a lot of people aren't going to treat it as well as a $1,000 snake, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it is.
The nice thing on some of those, you can get some inexpensive $100 ball pythons that have a couple different genes that look pretty still.
Yeah. Those ones, you tend to sell well.
Would you ever, and man, that'd be too hot actually and dry. I was gonna say, would you ever try ball pythons outside by you? But it'd probably get too hot and dry.
It'd get too hot. Yeah, it gets scorching here.
Yeah, like you could do like
here, but
your tortoise. You have tortoises. You could do those outside.
Yeah, the sulcata tortoises do great outside here. Even better in Phoenix, but here too. A lot of people here have desert tortoises as well, which are, the Sonoran desert tortoises native to Arizona.
Is there any issues like keeping and breeding those as pets? Don't take them from the wild, I'm sure.
Yeah, they are regulated, but usually Arizona Game and Fish has some up for adoption, so it's where most people get them. You're not supposed to breed them. It's illegal to breed them, and especially to sell them, but they're in abundance because people will pick them up off the road and try to save them or find babies and stuff like that.
So are they at least doing okay then in the wild?
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't. I'd have to look into it more. From what I know, I think so though.
Okay. Well, that's good at least. And I guess I'm not exactly sure how recently. You recently graduated college, right?
Yeah, I graduated vet school.
Yep. Have you started working since then, like as a vet, or?
Yes, I started. So I graduated in June, so I just started working. Middle of June is when I started working. That's why I moved down to Tucson. So I'm working at a hospital with there's lots of other doctors there that have lots of great experience, and there's one doctor specifically who is really into reptiles, and so it's kind of what drew me to that clinic. Right now I see more exotic pets than I do dogs and cats, probably, because it's not just an exotic specialty clinic. It's kind of a little bit of everything, but yeah, we see a lot of exotic animals, and it's nice because I can just always ask my boss for advice on what to do if there's something that's kind of different, new, odd, or something that kind of stumps me or whatever. Yeah. So
now with humans, they do like residency. Is there any of that with vets or not really? It's kind of
There's options for like internships and residencies to specialize. Like you can specialize in surgery or specialize in like exotic animal medicine, or even more specific like herpetological medicine, avian medicine, stuff like that. I I decided just to start working as a general practice vet, but I went to this clinic specifically so I could, because they already see an abundance of exotic animals, which is what I really want to work on.
Do you have any desire to specialize down the road or not?
Yeah, I would like to. I mean, I haven't completely decided yet. And there is a route where you can specialize and get board certified just by working for a certain amount of time. If you work 5 years and get enough cases, enough experience with what you want to specialize in, then you can, apply to take the board exam for that certification versus doing a residency or an internship, which would get you there faster. But it's just a matter of, lower pay as a resident or internship is the biggest difference. As a resident or intern, I should say.
So I'm guessing no, since you already have a job, but it wasn't too hard to find a job then?
Not terribly. Vets are are in low numbers right now. So, I mean, it may have been more difficult to find, another one like the one I have, for sure, where I can start seeing exotic animals and getting, lots of experience without having to do an internship. But yeah, I really like it here. I think I got really lucky, to find it for sure. Great, great people to work with, a great hospital. It's a lot of good experience too.
How much, during school, is it like multiple classes on reptiles, or how much is on reptiles?
So pretty much we only had one class on reptiles, and it wasn't reptiles specifically. We had 1/4 of an exotic animal medicine class, which most vet schools are like that. We would get some here and there in some of our other classes that are more like pathology and anatomy and stuff like that. We'd get some stuff thrown at us, but for the most part, it was just the one main class, which was just exotic medicine. And then during our clinical year, where we go and rotate and kind of work under and learn from other vets, this is basically our last year. For my school, is our last 15 months of school. We have certain core rotations, clinical rotations we have to take, and then we have so many electives. So the majority of my electives I try to take with exotic animal hospitals, so I could just get some more experience and prepare me a little more.
Yeah, I hope me asking that doesn't. I'm not saying you're not qualified or any of that.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're good.
And I'm sure you've probably already learned a ton on the job, and that's where a lot of places you learn the most on the job, or quite a bit on the job anyway.
That's definitely been my experience so far.
So, knowing you lived in Arizona, this is something I heard today. Did you know Arizona is the 49th state in education?
I didn't.
I was just surprised when I heard that. Nothing bad about Arizona,
That's unfortunate for us.
Yeah, and I really think that depends on the school. There's great schools in different areas, and
yeah,
some of that's probably also how well the kids do, not actually the teachers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It would have been funnier if we were 48th, because we're the 48th state. So.
It would have worked out better, yeah. I mean, it could have changed. So this one's more of a hypothetical question.
Okay.
Say you're sold out November 1st, or insert whatever date. What would you buy, or what would you add to your collection? Whether blue tongue, ball python mutation, new species.
Like if I sold everything I produced this year, and yeah, that'd be nice. Let me think. In terms of blue tongues, the one I want more than anything right now are the hypermelanistics, which I know I'm probably not gonna be able to find any, but potentially I know Heather's been having good luck making some pos hets with really good markers. So I actually messaged her. She's not selling any yet, but maybe down the road a year or two after she gets some more out, I'd really want to get started on the hypers. And I was thinking potentially an albino, or maybe het albinos as well in terms of the blue tongues.
Would you go the 100% route? Would you do the possible hat? Depends on
I don't know.
Account.
I guess it depends on the price. Yeah, but I'd prefer to do 100%. Because I wouldn't want to spend extra for a pos set and then it not prove out, or not all of them prove out. I do like Victor from Far Out Exotics. I like his aneries too. They're really pretty. I think that would be cool. I don't know. I feel like the aneries with the albino might be cool. Potentially the aneries and the hypermels, which I think they made that in Australia.
Yep.
Is it the platinum?
So platinum's the white in the hypermel.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
Anery and hyper's the blackout, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Which got black everything except maybe the belly.
Okay. I don't think I've seen those. I'll have to look. That's cool.
The hard part on whites, for example, you lose a lot, but with the combinations, at least you start getting stuff back. Even various shades. It might be the white and the hyper and the anery, the mercury. Those ones are pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, I need to look up some more of the Australia morphs.
But the hard thing on a triple visual, that's going to be a bit,
Yeah, that's going to take a long time.
So would you add anery over albino, or do you think albino would be probably your first choice then of the ones that are
I don't know.
Commonly.
I don't know. I really like the aneries, but if I get hypermels, then I'd add albino in over the anery, because I would want to go for the lavas. But if not, then I don't know, because I really do like those ones as well. I'd have to see, if that time comes, what the price differences are too as well.
Yeah.
Albinos, are a lot different for sure. But it does seem like, it's getting more realistic for us to have similar morphs to what they have in Australia, at least down the road.
Oh, definitely. And especially with the ones we don't have in Australian types, we got some in the IJs or the IJ Northern mixes.
Mm-hmm. And we have the polygenics too, so mixing that in with some of the genes could definitely be helpful to just kind of give a slightly different pattern or contrast.
Do you think long term, your collection will be more polygenic or more genetic, or
long term potentially more genetic? I feel like I'd want to get maybe 50-50, but I do want down the road, I do want to get more into genetics. I don't even have an ivory yet, which I do want some down the road as well. I've just I'm trying to decide if I want to or just wait and save what I would spend towards that for something like a hypermale or albino or something like that.
I know, and this would cost more. I don't know if they still are. Victor had some of the ivory possible het aneries,
Yeah,
but then you play the gamble on it.
yeah, and that's a possibility for sure. I did gamble on I got a pos het monsoon ball python female a couple of years ago, and I finally got a clutch of eggs from her. And it was right around the time the monsoon shed test came out, but she already had eggs about to hatch, bred to a pastel double het sunset monsoon male. None of the babies were monsoon though, and I sent her shed off now to just double check. I'm thinking she's probably not monsoon, but I just want to be sure.
Are you going to test the babies for sunset and monsoon then?
Yeah, I'll test them all. I've put that male to work, the double het monsoon sunset. So last year he gave me a lot of babies. I have one female. It's a triple het monsoon sunset ultra male. I have a double het monsoon ultra male female. So I need to make or find a male for those two. And then I have 3 double het monsoon VPI exanthic females too. So the monsoon exanthic, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been hit yet either. So those females will be ready hopefully early next year to breed. And I have a male, their sibling, that's a triple het sunset VPI exanthic monsoon that I'll put to them, and hopefully I'll get the double.
Has that been hit yet, the sunset VPI monsoon, or no?
No, it hasn't.
Right, I don't think so.
And I don't think a sunset monsoon hasn't been hit either. That's originally why I got him. I wanted to make a sunset monsoon. I'm sure it'll be hit soon. Most of my babies, I probably won't get any even had chance at a sunset monsoon for another year or year and a half. But that's another one I want to go for.
Have you been adding a bit more ball python still, or have you slowed down? Or
yeah, I've slowed down a little bit. I've also I got a few more on the way actually. A DG, nothing crazy, just a DG female that's almost ready to breed, and a hypo female that's ready to breed, and that's purely to go for. I want to go for triple het monsoon DG exanthics and hypo DG or hypo monsoon exanthics. So I'm going to put my triple het exanthic sunset monsoon male to those girls and hope for the best, because those haven't been hit yet either. The DG monsoon's been hit, but not an exanthic monsoon or exanthic DG monsoon. But other than that, I don't know. Some of the ball pythons I want to kind of slim down on. I want to focus more on the monsoon and sunset stuff. So I have a bunch I have a big G-stripe clown project I'll probably be putting up for sale soon. I have a few more I want to breed first, but.
And it could be because that one's been around a bit. I do like the look of the monsoon a lot better. The way it breaks it all up. And, not
monsoon.
It's hard because you want to stay relevant, but you can only do so much. You only got so much space, and
exactly.
One worry, or worry is not the best word, but as people or overall we learn more about reptile intelligence, do you think it will ever get to the point where you won't be able to say keep ball pythons in racks, where everything will have to be enclosures, UVB, kind of like overseas?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll get to that point here. You know, like I'm not like, a lot of ball python people say, ball pythons do better in racks. They feel comfortable. And I don't know if I would go that far. Like, I think they do well in racks for a breeding purpose, and they eat well and they breed well, and it's easier to keep humidity. And I think they have their racks definitely help, for a breeder, just to make everything more, I guess, convenient, and they're easier to clean and whatnot. But probably still not necessarily the best thing for a ball python. A 4x2, would be great as well if you have enough, clutter, enough area for them. I've even seen some that have like 4x2. It's like a 4x2 enclosure, and it has a drawer at the bottom, and it has a tub to where they can go like in a hole, like a burrow, and that is their and that's the tub. So I really like that. But yeah, just in terms of actually breeding, it's more practical, for sure, to have the racks. One thing I don't like. I got this one for a good deal. I'm planning on switching it, but I like the tubs that are clear, or I like the ones that are, I think they're the 80s, the FB 80s that have like the plexiglass window in the front, because I like them to at least have some light cycle, and those are a little bigger. So I want to switch to that, at least that, for all my ball pythons. Just to give them a little more space, and it's better, so that they can have the light cycle for sure. This one's not my favorite. It's just,
it works.
Yeah, it works.
And some of that, especially the smaller ones, they're not staying in there super long, and I'm sure some of them are only temporary, and then they go off to new homes a lot of the time in the small sizes.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the skinks too, I really like the 4x2s for them. And I like your system you have too, where they can have the basking and UVB.
It's not perfect, if I, had we, like we kind of talked before we started recording, having the 8x4 pits, if we had a ton of room, would be nice. But it's a good happy medium. It's got the more room, yet you still have the, I don't want to say assembly line where it's easier to clean, but if you get a dirty hide, you take the dirty one out, put a clean one in.
Yeah.
You have the same type. It's, same thing. You pull the dirty fake plants out, put the same type in. We swap it up, like the styles, because they only last so long, so we just get cheap ones. But
yeah, exactly.
Then it's a little different stimulation, and it changes it some. It's hard to like change too much. What about, so there was, and I'll have to send you the link. They were studying the intelligence of the redfoot tortoise and its brain. And there was another one just in general in the news, like talking the world's smartest reptiles.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So, just overall, they're studying the brain, that, reptiles are intelligent more than we think. And it might have been even to the extent of feelings, but it wasn't as strong as feelings. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
But, I guess is it better to present us all a little better long term? That way we look better for new people coming in, or?
Yeah, I can see that argument for sure. And I definitely think if you have a pet or a couple pets, definitely the more the better in terms of space. As long as you're able to if we're talking about a ball python specifically, give them enough comfort,
Yeah.
Like make them feel secure and comfortable. But yeah, and usually that's what I recommend to, people that have pets, more space is, great, more natural for sure. But yeah, I think, and I don't know, the hard thing is too, it's like different reptiles definitely have, different levels of intelligence. So I just don't know how we would like differentiate that, or if it would just be like, everyone has to be in a 4x2, which I don't think that would happen. But I don't know. Yeah. Cause definitely like a blue tongue, compared to a ball python, they're definitely more personable, have more personality and are more curious. Sometimes that depends on the animal too. There's definitely lots of ball pythons with personality and whatnot, and just curiosity. But also there's lots of breeders that keep in tubs, and they'll just like, they'll have certain days where they'll let, certain snakes out, and they'll have like a spot for them to climb and whatnot, which I think is cool. The hard part with switch, with something like that, and if that was a change that society was going to go for, is, babies that were born and raised in racks, sometimes it is a little harder to get them switched over to a bigger enclosure. It's harder for them to feel comfortable that way.
Now, you've mainly noticed that in ball pythons, right?
Yeah, mostly in ball pythons, yeah.
Because like I have had the random one that took a little longer to settle in after being moved around.
Oh, for the blue tongues?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the most part, they, after a couple days, were fine.
Uh-huh.
That,
yeah, I feel like most of mine, they take a little bit to settle in sometimes if it's a big, they put him a baby right into a 4x2 or something like that. But most of the time they end up doing okay, especially if they have some good hiding spots. But yeah, I think, I definitely think there's a place for racks, and there's a place for, more, like comprehensive or like more complicated and bigger enclosures as well, for sure. Pros and cons.
What's that?
Pros and cons to both, for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's it's kind of hard to judge, with everyone having to say go bigger, there'd be less around, which there's pros and cons to that. With
there'd definitely be less breeding for sure, which would increase the cost of pretty much all the reptiles, or at least ones that were traditionally kept in racks and have to be switched to something bigger.
Have you heard about this one's somewhat local to you in Arizona, the bubonic plague's back in prairie dogs?
Oh, I haven't. I've heard about it in the past, but I haven't heard about it recently.
That popped up in the news, and I thought that was an odd thing, so I figured I'd bring that up, especially you living there. Like,
yeah, I'll have to look into that too.
Another thing I thought was cool in South Florida, to try to help with the berm population, they got robot rabbits.
Oh, really?
To try to get the berms to eat those, I guess.
And do they just have like trackers in them, or do they like kill them?
I didn't fully read the whole article right before. I would imagine, well, I guess they might have enough food drive that it produced enough heat that they'd still eat it. Like,
yeah. I'm wondering, if they sent it and then if it produces enough heat.
I'd be curious to see how successful it is long term, but some of that stuff they don't really tell you.
Yeah. I just wonder what their goal is, if it's just like they can track the robot and then go find the berm. I assume.
It was they were talking to help control the population. I don't know if it's to control it by studying it or to control it by
Oh yeah,
you eat a robot that's going to poison you on the inside out, or
yeah. I'm sure they'll euthanize them. I was just wondering if it has a tracker, they'll go find it and euthanize it, or if the robot itself will have something in there that'll kill it. That would be
I would
interesting.
on the tracker part. Those are pretty easy to do now. That I'm sure they could figure it out with
Yeah.
that. So long term, uh, I guess we'll call it. What's your 5-year plan? And then when you're gone, what do you want your breeding work to be remembered?
That's a good question. 5 year. I don't know. Here in 5 years, I'd hope to either have a large facility or, I don't want to go too big, but have more space at least for what I have, probably a similar amount of animals to what I have now, but more space. And then, either in a facility or shed or something in my backyard. And I'd want to, hopefully have mostly visuals, double visuals, and like triple visual ball python projects going on, especially like monsoon DG, VPI, Xanthics, stuff like that. In terms of the blue tongues, I'd like to, I want to further my polygenetic lines for sure. In terms of like the pitch black yellows, I want to get one that looks like a bumblebee, basically very bright yellows, dark blacks, and also my I have some pitch black magmas. I just have been calling them black magmas for short, but I want them to be like, I want to get that the deep red in the blacks. So I want to further those projects and then hopefully have some more genetic mutations of blue tongues. And then, I might still be working here in Tucson as well. I really like this clinic, or potentially, we've talked about moving back home, which is just a rural area of Arizona. That could happen sometime in the next 5 to 10 years, potentially, unless we just decide to stay here. I'm not sure. But we've always talked about going back home. And I don't know. I can't think of any other plans in terms of the reptiles and whatnot.
So say you move back home, would you open your own vet practice, or hopefully everything else takes off enough, or a little of both?
Probably a little bit of both, but there's a clinic there now. I could potentially, talk to the owner about working there or open one. Maybe there's no exotic clinic there. Maybe I'll just open an exotics only clinic. The only problem is it's a smaller town, so it might not do as well. But potentially if the reptiles are doing well enough by then, that could supplement it. And then I would just work slowly with exotics.
This one I'd be curious to see long term. I think overall the number of people that have even just like a reptile as a pet is going to grow.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's going to be enough where you could, just have your own exotic practice, for example, or being enough in a rural town with the knowledge you have on other animals, even just get enough to work at the one,
Yeah. So yeah, time will tell for sure.
Yeah, that's, life can change in 5 years, and you might cut back partially because you have kids and you're running a practice, or who knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there anything that, like, say 30 years down the road, you'd be like to known for your own mutation, a 7 gene recessive mutation combination, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I think I would really like, if I'm able to like hone in some of the projects I'm working on in terms of the blue tongues and like, potentially like name one of the lines if assuming it's different enough from others, you know, put a name to a line or two of the polygenetic blue tongues. Yeah, I don't know yet. And then, you know, as far as the ball pythons, you know, I think I'd like to be known down the road for the monsoon stuff, you know, especially the monsoon combos, like potentially monsoon sunset. As of right now, I'm definitely not. I pretty much just have het stuff. I'm growing up, but it's just the base, just building the base right now. So, yeah.
Do you think it's before we wrap up? Do you think it's worth in ball pythons adding, you know, the random wild caught ones to try to prove out as new mutations to add on? Probably depends on what it looks like too.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think is it Outback Reptiles. I think they do a lot of the wild caught stuff, and they'll sell like the ones that look different at a different price than just the wild caught imports. So I think they'll do like the baby bags of wild caught imports that are all like normals or normal looking, maybe slightly different. And they'll sell a bag of 10 for like $500. It's like $50 each. But then they'll have like some of the other genes. The only thing is, like, I guess the risk would be like, if you find something different, is it something that's already there? Like, is it going to end up being like, oh, that one looks different, but ends up being a mahogany, you know, or something that's already established, which luckily with shed testing, you know, you can get that and test it for the 40 genes that they have and see if it's one of those. And if it's not, try to prove it out from there. So I guess that's the benefit. That'll save a lot of time. I've thought about doing that too, looking through some of the imports and finding something that's a lot different, and then just testing it and seeing.
Well, and even if it, you know, it might still be different and not test, and, you know, because it, like some of the ones I've looked at in the past definitely look more basic, we'll call them, or simple. But then there's been some more unique looking ones that they've had that I could see definitely being new.
Yeah, I've seen some as well. And those are usually the ones that get, you know, bought up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But
or they end up being a bit more too on top.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you again for coming on. Where's the best place for everyone to check out what you got, whether it's blue tongues or ball pythons? And then
so, you know, my Instagram, Dragon Ball Pythons on Instagram, I post the majority of my stuff on there in terms of like just updates, pictures and clutches and litters and whatnot. And then as far as actually purchasing animals, Morph Market, I post almost everything just on Morph Market, and that's just Dragon Ball Pythons as well.
And then you'll be at the...
And I'll be at the West Valley Reptile Showcase if you're in Arizona too. If anyone's in Arizona wants to stop by and take a look. But yeah, and you know, I'm always, you know, even if you don't know if you want to buy anything or if you just have a question about like a color or a gene, you know, I'm always open to talk about or answer any questions about anything. I'm always willing to help too.
Well, thank you for coming on. You have a great rest of your night, and I appreciate everyone watching. You all have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Alex. It was a lot.